Hi all, I'm creating this video to understand or explain the variable environment and hosting in JavaScript. So what is hosting and what is variable environment? I will explain with some examples. So let's start with the hosting. Hosting is nothing, it refers to the process of moving certain variables to the top of their respective scope. Because of hosting, we can access some variable before they created in the scope. So what is scope? What is global scope? Scope chain I will explain in same video. So actually under the hood, the JavaScript engine scans through the code and creates a new property of each variable in the place, and that place we called it as a variable environment. So we can declare variable with the help of var, let and const. So if we declare the var, if you see here, I am declaring variable a with the var, and before that I am trying to console it. So what happens? As I explained, hosting, this declaration will get moved to the top of the scope, and it will print undefined because only declaration it will move to the top, not the initialization. And if we even define the function abc console.log, oh hi, I am inside function. Okay, I am trying to print this console, so I will call this function before it's declared. So what will happen? Will it run? Obviously it will run because hosting will move this function declaration to the top of its scope. So if I run the, okay, first it's undefined because only declaration is going to move to the top of the scope and function will get also executed. But what happens if I try to append this function to some variable? Okay, what will happen? Will it execute? No, it won't, because variable declaration will get moved, not the function expression. So if I try to run it, ABC is not a function, and this will throw the error. So let's see with the const and let. What will happen? It will throw the reference error because it will also get host, but it will move to the temporal red zone. So it will throw reference error, cannot access A before initialization. Same will happen for late. So if I save this file and run the program, same error. So constant and late will throw the reference error, but for var the declaration will get moved to the top and it will display the undefined. So what is temporal dead zone? So temporal dead zone, whenever means for late and const, it will get also hosted, but it will move to the temporal zone. The term itself describes that the state where variable are unreachable, and when we try to access such a variables, it will throw the reference error. So let's now I will explain what is scope and scope chain in JavaScript. So this is one file where I have created variable. Now scope, there are scope, global scope, function scope, block scope. Const and let are blocks level scope. So scope is an environment in which variables and functions are created. So global scope is created with the top level variables and function that are located outside of any function in a script. Suppose this is, I will take constant name, random name, John. Okay, let's take Neha. Now I will create a function logger. I will console the name here, and I will call this function logger. I will save the file and run the program. Oh, this is, let me comment it out. This should be var, but I'm not going to explain this. I already explained. So let's check the scope of the variables. So here, if you see, we can access, oh, name we can't use. We have to use a different variable name, a and b. A random variable name I'm using. So a and b, where this is the variable, and if you see, if I try to print this, it will print the name, because this function have access to its global scope, its own scope. So own scope means the function scope, and the global scope means the outer scope. So in the function which can have its access to own scope and out global scope. So global scope will come like this a and b is in the global scope. What is function scope? Every function in JavaScript creates its own scope. So if you see logger, this creates its own scope, where variable created within that scope are accessible only inside that scope. So function scope is also referred to the local scope. So if I try to print let me create constant age, and age will be 70. And if I try to print the age, this age is a local scope of this function. So I am going to print this and it will give 70. Neha 70. So this is a function scope. But what if I try to access this function? Sorry, if I try to access this here outside the function, what will happen? Any guesses? So it will throw the reference error because it moves through the temporal dead zone, and it cannot be accessed outside of the function because this age is local to that function and not accessible from outside. So that's why it's giving the error, and this is called as function scope, where age is a function scope to the function only. So block level scope now. Starting from year 6, a block is created, a block of code wrap around curly braces. Now if let me remove this, and if I have ABC where I'm putting random ABC, okay. Now if let's suppose I am taking condition A, B, C equal to ABC, string ABC. Let me use a proper name, first name Neha. If first name equal to Neha, then console.log, let me add constant age of Neha will be 70 again. Let's take 70, and I'm going to print this here. Now what happens if I try to access this outside the function? What will happen? Reference error again, because constant is function level scope. So after this is not a function, this is the curly braces. So constant and late are a block level scope, and it won't be accessible if the curly braces is getting closed there. So if you declare inside the curly braces and you are trying to access this letter, it won't be accessible. So let me remove this console which is outside the curly braces, and now I try running this. Didn't I put Neha? Oh, this is not matching. Okay, Neha. Say 70. Age is 70 because this is block level scope. Now let's try with same response we will get. Yeah, correct. Same response we are going to get. So if we try to access that late and constant variable outside the curly bracket, obviously we will get the reference error. And in strict mode, function declaration are block scope. It means function declaration created within a block are only accessible inside the block and not outside of it. So this is about the global scope. Okay, now what is scope chain? So if I have a function, outer function, outer function, I'm creating one more function, inner function, inside the outer function. Now I have variable first name here, Neha. Now I'm trying to access the Neha inside the outer function, inside outer function, and let me print first name. Same, I will print inside the inner function, in function. Okay, now let me call inner function, let me call outer function now. So what is going to happen? Is this accessible inside this outer function and inner function? Yes. And this is called as scope chain, because inner function can access its own variable. Let me create one more variable last name here for inside last name Deshmukh. Okay. If I'm going to print, if I print this, what will happen? It will access, obviously it is gonna access the last name because it's inner own scope. Yeah, so inner scope has access to its own scope, outer scope, and the global scope. So global scope is first name here. Let me create one more variable here to just random number, and let me print inside the inner function. Okay, a and a. It will print the value for a as well, because inner function have access to parent scope, global scope, and own scope, and this is called the scope chain. So thank you for watching the videos. If you like the description explanation, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have any comments that I can improve better here, please write down the comments. Thank you so much.